Welcome to Rich Conversations. Today in this recording, I want to take some time to show how the things we work on with self-development, clarity, intention, making right decisions, translates to things just outside of ourself, right? We can apply these concepts to anything. And so today I want to show how I use it to play fantasy baseball. And this goes for other fantasy sports as well. I usually do pretty good. I don't gamble online or with apps. Back in 2017, I was about to go on a trip to Spain, and March Madness was going on, and I had filled out a bracket with a bunch of friends. And it came down to the championship game. I had selected Gonzaga to win the title, and the other person had selected North Carolina. So everything came down to the final outcome of this game. And if Gonzaga won, I would win $600. If I lost, or if Gonzaga lost, I would get nothing, get zero. And I'm thinking about how $600 would go a long way on a trip to Spain coming up. And so during the game, I had it in the living room and I couldn't even watch it. The physiology of my body was just out of control. I couldn't even watch it. I would peek inside the living room, see what's happening. And this guy, Luke May, probably my most disliked athlete in my life. Luke May just kind of took over the game, and North Carolina won, beat Gonzaga. So I was left with zero. And just that feeling, so I don't gamble a whole lot, but I do enjoy fantasy. So with that being said, I have I'm sharing my screen now, and this is my fantasy baseball team. Now, I'm the Uptown Argyles, currently 7-3, and I like doing fantasy because it helps me be more familiar with the players and the sport and kind of the trajectory of the season. It's a lot of fun. In my morning routine, part of the things I do every single day is check the box scores of the sports the night before. And I do it while I'm eating breakfast, and I give attention to it. I give my focus and attention to it. So I'll show you kind of what I'll do. Now, last year, 2023, I told my cousin, I would like to get into fantasy baseball. And him and some other cousins and friends, they've had a league going for 10 years. And this was around Easter 2023. And he's like, well, we have a team in our league that they don't check, so they don't deserve to be in it. And so he just gave me that team. Now, it was in last place when I took over, and we finished the year in the championship as runner-up. And now we're off to a 7-3 start this season. I don't think in fantasy baseball, drafting a team, drafting is really that important. Now, we're a keeper league, so I'll show you kind of my team right here. Let's see where we rank. So we get a lot of hits, bad at runs. Yeah. So I'll show you what I specialize in. We're doing a rotisserie. Now, this week it's pretty close. Very close. So Cody Bellinger, I picked him up last year. He did really well. He was playing in a contract year and put up a lot of good numbers, so he helped the team last year. But what I noticed taking over last year, so this is the team. I picked 7 keepers from last year, and 2 of them are on the DL, Spencer Strider, Merrill Kelly, and then I had Machado, Yordan Alvarez, Cody Bellinger, Kyle Tucker, Freddie Freeman. So I don't think drafting with baseball is that important. I was in New York, and my cousin's like, hey, the draft's coming up. Make sure you pick your keepers. And I was like, I chose my keepers, but I won't be at the draft because I was in New York at the time, and I'm not going to spend time on my computer, sit in front of my computer when I can just be walking the streets of Manhattan. Like, I'm not going to choose to do that. So what I focus on with baseball, fantasy baseball, is pitching. In particular, starting pitching. So we have 4 bench positions available. I use 3 on starters. We have 2 reliever positions and a pitcher, a reliever, kind of utility pitcher position. But when I examined this last year, and now I'm using it again this year, is batters. A lot of the points are broken up with batters and pitchers, right? So you have walks, strikeouts, stolen bases, home runs, runs, like all these different categories, right? And batters will play every day. So I don't really feel the need to interchange or have multiple bench players. I utilize the IL quite a bit. Because if you put someone on IL, you can add a player without having to drop someone. So then you kind of play out the numbers, right? So what I noticed, I can just check. So this is how I do it. The night before, I look at all the box scores, and then every Monday, I'll set my lineups for the whole week, and in particular, starting pitching. This is what I think a lot of fantasy baseball players in their leagues have trouble with, is like keeping up with the pitcher starts. But they have, if they're playing that day, I'll show you. No one's pitching today on my team, but tomorrow I have Tyler Anderson from LA Angels. He's okay. Anyway, so he's got a probable pitcher mark. So I make sure that every single day, if they have that mark next to them, they're starting. And then you set that for the week. And then around Thursday, Friday, I'll just double check it for the weekend, because sometimes they switch out in the rotations, stuff like that. So then I'm always getting a starting pitcher playing, and I rely heavily on getting opportunities with starting pitching numbers. And what I mean by that is you could have a starting pitcher pitch one day during the entire week. It just kind of plays out that way. And he could put up a -1, right? Or he put up like a 38. So there's this wide variance in the performance, but there's a lot more opportunity, I think. I don't go deep dive on the numbers too much. I look at certain numbers and see how they play out. So I use that to kind of set the week. So the day before, right? So I'll look at, and it's fun because then I'll look at all the scores the night before and look for all my players, and then I kind of see how other players are doing, who kind of stands out. And I do this for basketball and football as well. This annoyed me right here, right? So I have Iglesias as my reliever, one of my relievers on Atlanta, and Lopez was starting. And Atlanta won, but he didn't pick up the win, so I didn't get those extra points. It's like 10 points for a win. Anyways, so if we look at the league, so what I do, let's go to the full standings. All right, so batting, I'm pretty bad. I don't focus on batting. As you can see, my numbers aren't too great if we're looking at Uptown Argyles. All right, now let's look at pitching, though. I'm actually kind of low in there. So I don't know how I'm winning, but I'm winning. Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so I'm on a 4-game win streak here. We're 7-3. I don't know. I think just week to week I figure it out. The rotisserie numbers don't really, the rankings don't really reveal that. I don't go this deep into the numbers. I just see if we're winning or losing. Anyways. So I have made 10 moves since the start of the season. Now what I'll do is when I look at players, so say pitching, I'll look first at the plus or minus. So in all the leagues, who's getting picked up the most? And this is what I mean by I don't think drafting is that important. Because you have your keepers. So with drafting, I just do auto. And then you can swap in and out. Baseball, unlike other sports, I feel like there's a lot more movement. And the season is so long, guys get injured, they go into IL, and there's more players, more movement. So you can find gems, because you also have the minor league system, and they call people up, and so it's kind of this kind of big world in a way. Whereas football, you can definitely find people in free agents, but there's so much competition for them, and it's just less likely. Basketball is heavily dependent on the superstars that you have. You won't find too many people just sitting in free agents and them to contribute. All right, so we look at, see this, I had flagged this guy, Brian Wu. Most of my players, I have no idea what they look like, or even how to pronounce their names. That's what's interesting with baseball is the players are not recognizable. Like, who are the stars? Ohtani, Aaron Judge. It's hard to tell of like who's good, like what players look like. It's just not how I follow baseball. I follow baseball more by the numbers in a way. And so this guy I had flagged, Brian Wu, he's averaging 21.5 points per outing. Let's look at his last 7. Okay, so he won. So then you can kind of see, and you look at their last outings. Yeah, so I'll flag someone who I'm possibly interested in. So he's climbing. So Wu is averaging this season 21.5. Now let's look at, I don't change out a lot of players. I'm pretty patient, and I think that's a standard with high-level fantasy players, is that they don't just drop and add people all the time. It's really intentional. It's really clear and focused. So 21.5. Now let's look at my pitchers. Yeah, this Nick Belvetta for the Boston Red Sox, he's been annoying. So that'd be someone I consider dropping. Tanner Beebe has been playing good late. You have your closers here. Yeah, Bailey's been kind of mediocre. But again, I don't want to rush to decisions. And then I'll look at the total points and compare the two. If I'm looking at players now, I have Manny Machado and Yandy Diaz. Those two have been really disappointing, and I've been swapping them in and out. Well, overall, I'm pretty satisfied. The catcher position, I feel similar to the tight end in fantasy football. That's a spot where I'll interchange catchers, try to find the right one. This is my third catcher this year. Yeah, Machado. I don't think I'm going to keep him next year. Yeah, Kyle Tucker's been crushing it for Houston. And I also consider good teams versus bad teams. I feel that players on good teams will put up more production. There's just more stability. There's more talent around them. So that's something I consider. This Paul Skinnies, I picked him up early because I just seen his name come up on the Pat McAfee show, like a thumbnail. And I was like, let me look this up. And he allowed like a decent amount of runs. Like his ERA was really bad, but he had a bunch of strikeouts. I picked him up. He's been phenomenal. He's been averaging 20.8, and he got called up. So that's the thing too, is when in baseball, players can get called up and just go on a tear, where you just don't get that in basketball or football in fantasy. Football, you can, but it's a very small percentage, where in baseball, there's a lot higher percentage of that occurring. So then, if we're looking at batting, I feel like first and third baseman and outfielders you can find pretty easily. So I try to look at Wilson Contreras flagged. Catchers, second baseman, shortstops, I feel like are hard to find. So I try to keep my eye out for those and not jump the gun on an outfielder. Yeah, it's David Fry. He's been out there for a little bit. I was thinking about adding Wilson Contreras and keeping him as catcher, because before he went out, he was the highest scoring catcher. And because he got injured, one of the other teams dropped him. So it's something to be conscious about too. But yeah, that's kind of an overview of how I run my fantasy baseball team. Patience, clarity, value certain positions. Be consistent with making sure everything is set. Yeah. Patience. So that's how I win fantasy baseball. We looked at the rotisserie numbers, and they wouldn't show that I'm that good of a team, but we're a gritty team. We just find how to win games, how to win weeks, every single week. Which is good for the playoffs, because then it's, a lot of times you go on a tear and then you get knocked out in the playoffs. So it's good to have that grittiness. Anyways, hope this helps. Hope this shows that you can add a lot of these skills that we're building in any arena of life. And I choose to demonstrate them in fantasy sports. So have a great day.